Hi everyone, it's Dr. Z. We are here in the French Revolution. This is section 5 of 6. You're almost there. This is the exciting one with the terror. Oh no. Okay. So, we are in the middle of the Second Revolution, okay? That part of the French Revolution where, stuff starts to go pretty bad. The events of the Second Revolution are listed here, and we're going to talk about some of these in particular in the coming slides. But we've got the September massacres. The National Convention is at war with most of Europe, including Great Britain and Spain. The Vendée region of France is going to support the counter-revolutionary movement. The Mountain is going to join the Sans-Culottes and invade the National Convention. And the National Convention is going to form the Committee for Public Safety, which is going to give it dictatorial power. And you can probably imagine how that's going to go. So let's talk about the September massacres to start off with. So fearing Prussian invasion and hearing rumors that counter-revolutionaries are going to aid those invaders, a bunch of crowds storm prisons and they murder a whole bunch of jailed priests and aristocrats. So anyone in those first and second estates. Then the Sans-Culottes is going to demand radical political action, and they are going to get together with the Mountain. That's that far left Jacobin group, and they are going to engineer a popular uprising. And armed Sans-Culottes are going to go into the National Convention and arrest 29 moderate Girondists who are deputies of the National Convention. And they're going to say, you have committed treason. And then all power is going to pass to the Mountain because those 29 moderate leftist folks are going to have been arrested. The National Convention is then going to form what's called the Committee for Public Safety. And this is really sort of the beginning of the end for the French Revolution and the revolutionaries. They formed this in April of 1793. So this is 4 years, just about almost to the day since the revolution began with the calling of the Estates General, to deal with the threats from within and outside of France. This is led by a man named Robespierre. He's sort of the big wig of the French Revolution. He's the person that most people know more about. The Committee for Public Safety is going to take dictatorial power. So the National Convention really isn't a republic anymore, okay, because it's being led by this small committee for public safety. It's really an oligarchy, okay, led by Robespierre, who's sort of a dictator, kind of, even though he's a revolutionary. So they say, hey, we can use necessary force to defend the French Revolution. And because of this formation of the Committee for Public Safety, a bunch of moderates and counter-revolutionaries all around the country start to revolt. So they really don't have control of France anymore. The Committee for Public Safety really only controls the area around Paris and eastern France, because the rest of France, those moderates and counter-revolutionaries really aren't allowing for easy things to happen. Here's a drawing of Robespierre and him talking in the National Assembly, just to kind of give you a sense of what it looked like. And then here's the Committee for Public Safety, right? So we go from this large body, right? That's a republic, to this very small body that is basically a dictatorial faction. The Committee for Public Safety institutes a number of reforms. They collaborate with the workers, the Sans-Culottes. They decide that they're going to fix the prices of bread and other goods. This is what's called the planned economy, because people and the workers in general are very upset about the price and the inflation for things like bread. They nationalize the manufacture of arms production. They continue the Reign of Terror. So the Reign of Terror is the execution by guillotine of any enemy of the revolution. And they are encouraging people to denounce others, right, as being a royalist. So they're trying really to eliminate as many royalists as there are in France so that they can win the revolution. They also create a cultural revolution. They are creating revolutionary art, encouraging the writing of songs, different festivals, all to support French nationalism. They want people to start feeling revolutionary, and they think if there is a a feeling of revolutionary nationalism that they can get behind. And this is really, you guys probably, if you've studied the Nazis or the fascists in Italy at all, and we certainly will at the end of the school year, you'll understand that a revolution in culture can make people feel certain things politically. And this is really what they were trying to do. With that, they were also wanting to de-Christianize French people. They took the Cathedral of Notre Dame and changed it into the Temple for Reason being that main buzzword of the Enlightenment. So they really wanted to change the character of what it meant to be French. And in many ways, it's sort of, it really depends on how you look at it, but a lot of people would see France as a very secular place, and that this idea of secularism or laïcité really begins in this time period of the French Revolution. The other thing they did is they said, hey, we should use the decimal system. We want to have universal weights and measures. This is a very common thing for leaders to do in the ancient world as well as in the modern world. They create a revolutionary calendar in a 10-day week. So they're literally changing the names of the months. They are naming the months after important parts of the revolution itself. And so they're taking, our days of the week and our months are named after all sorts of things like Roman gods and ancient, and from ancient history. And they're renaming them and making them French. They also institute a draft or universal conscription of all unmarried young men. So these young people are people who are growing up in the revolution, right? If you're 19 years old, you've spent your entire teenage years in the revolutionary culture of France, and you are now an indoctrinated fighter. And so by doing this, they start to win on all fronts. It's really amazing. So whereas those revolutionary armies were failing across Europe earlier, they are doing a lot better now. Likewise, I mentioned the Reign of Terror. 40,000 people are killed by guillotine in the Reign of Terror, and we see the last prisoners awaiting execution during the Reign of Terror. And you can just imagine how this made people feel as they were witnessing scenes like this, and the joke was that the guillotine was the national razor. I mean, it's just to try to imagine sort of the emotional, psychological effect of this. It's quite drastic. Now, the big irony of the French Revolution is that while Robespierre is executing all of his critics, and there's a new law that takes away any defendant's right of legal counsel and criticizes criticism of the French Revolution, therefore you can have the guillotine and the execution of anyone who's a counter-revolutionary. Robespierre, though, people are rise up against him, his own people, and he's prevented from speaking in the National Convention. People actually are like howling over his voice, so he can't speak, and he ends up becoming executed as well. He's guillotined in July of 1794, and this starts what is called the Thermadorian reaction. The month is called Thermidor. They've changed the names of the month. And this is when bourgeois members of the National Convention write another constitution. So they reduce the number of men who can vote. They abolish the planned economy. They say that they need to have more free market economy. Prices can increase. And they take away the power from the Committee for Public Safety and give it to what's called the Directory. It's an even smaller group. It's 5 men who are meant to curtail any new dictator from taking power. So they say, look, we can't have one person in charge, like Robespierre really was in charge of that Committee for Public Safety. Now we have to have the Directory instead. And some historians say the Directory was fairly democratic, actually, and a fairly successful example of government, but others see, its failure, and that Napoleon comes in and takes over afterwards, and deposes them as, a sign that it wasn't successful. So here's the execution of Robespierre, as we mentioned. And the elections at this time during the Directory are showing that the public favors conservative and monarchist deputies, Okay, favoring peace at any price. So people are more in line. They're kind of tired of the revolution at this time, which would help us understand why Napoleon came into power. Right. The Directory was in power for 4 years. It had no clear leader. France was still embroiled in foreign wars. People are weary. They want peace. They want stability. They're okay with monarchy. And so this is going to lead us into our final video where we're going to talk about Napoleon and what happens with him. All right. Thanks for sticking with us and stay tuned.